Hello, hello, and welcome to the podcast. You have got Lindsey Hammond and Shannon Ball today. We are going to go ahead and get right into it. We have had tons of excitement and tons of questions about our strength training program, and we're so excited to share with you kind of the why behind the scenes, what was in our head as we were creating it for you, because this really is something that we did with our members in mind. So, to kind of kick us off, Shan, I've got a question for you, which is when I first came to you with this idea, what was your reaction and what did you think this would mean for our members?
Well, I was excited because I thought that our members would be excited as well. And with teaching reformer, I feel like there's some hunger for that as people get stronger. And it's just a missing component from what we offer. Like it feels like it fills out the great stuff that we already offer. This kind of finishes it off. Like we offer a great place to age well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not taking away from any of what we've already been doing. It doesn't take away from yoga. It doesn't take away from Pilates. It's an addition onto.
Yeah.
What makes you say that you felt like something was missing or like what gap is this filling?
Well, I personally do believe that reformer is a good way to build strength. It's a different kind of strength. And what I was finding, especially as the people I work with are getting so strong, is that for me, using light weights, especially just because what we know, and I'm sure we'll talk about that, about research and aging for women, I was frustrated with only having 3-pound weights because they needed more. They could do
Yeah.
fine with 3, but in order to really push their strength to a new level, they needed more weight. So this I don't know if I'm answering the question right, but it felt like it filled in that need.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are listening to this, please know that Shannon has been asking me to buy you heavier weights for at least a year at this point. And she's not wrong. You all have gotten so strong and it's such an exciting thing to see. And I think that kind of feeds into some of the science that we've looked at and like the evidence base that we've looked at to build this program in that like you can build strength in a lot of different ways, but there's really a best way to build muscle. And
Yeah.
we all need strength. And, between 20 and 40, you can kind of get away with doing a lot of things
Yeah.
to build strength, lower repetition or like higher repetition, lower weight. That works. But once you hit a certain point, which happens in your 30s, you have to start building muscle because our bodies start to lose muscle. And that was something that like really shocked me when we started to dig into the research about this is
Hmm.
like just how important actually building muscle to kind of
Hmm.
help compensate and help our bodies deal with the loss of muscle mass. And not because we're doing anything wrong or because we're not active. It's just that as we age, our bodies need something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we said like we've really like we got pretty nerdy on this. We dove into a lot of the like what are best practices out there, like
Yeah.
especially around longevity. So this is not a program that we developed to be a one size fits all for everyone. This is really something that we built to be for women in particular who are in the like at least 30 plus demographic. I would say like the sweet spot for this is probably like over 40.
Yep. I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think, Shan, that people need to know about why strength is important for longevity?
Yeah. Well, I have two thoughts. I was thinking while you were talking, one thing that I've always been kind of there's some deep psychological reasons for this, but I've always been very interested in aging and I've always really liked older people. And ever since college, I've always worked with strength training with older people. And when I was in my 20s, old people I thought were 60 and 70. Now, the old people I work with, I'm so blessed, are more like 85 to literally 100 plus. And so most of them, the median age being 90. And so it's really fascinating as a 52-year-old woman to watch aging and what the generations before me people born in the 40s, like what is happening to them now. And I get to work with mostly a subset that's always been active in some way, but heavy weightlifting wasn't really a thing for them. It was more like walking. So watching how they're aging and then looking at what we have now in terms of research and how it affects, like what's fascinating for me is that lifting heavy weights affects brain function. And there's even, I joke with my people, I wish I had brought the name of it to you, but there's even a place that one scientist started. You might know it, Lindsey, but it's like a heavy metal group for people like 80s and 90s. Like they are weight lifting, like with barbells and stuff. Like they a special gym for them, and they're finding such great results. But also, obviously, bone density. And we're learning that, and I was talking to Lindsey about this before, actually earlier today, that I'm noticing in my own strength workouts that as I push the amount of weight I'm lifting, not to hurt myself, but to what research is showing now that we need like 2 or 3 repetitions left in the tank in order to know that I'm seriously affecting change as a woman, especially in these 50s and beyond. We just know we have to do that in order to keep growing and changing. I'm noticing like, whoa, my workouts were a lot easier than I thought they were, just because I was like, I'm challenging myself. It's fine. But I wasn't really working out where there were like 2 to 3 reps left, so I wasn't lifting as heavy. And yeah, I think that's super interesting. As estrogen declines, we have to be lifting heavier weights in order to have improvement. And again, that's brain function, metabolic function, muscle growth. And we know we need that in order to be sturdier, healthier beings with this is, I don't know if I can say this is scientific. I could say it's scientific in terms of metabolic function, but my sense is with bodies and brains that are actively growing and processing, and that's not just playing bridge. It's also like lifting heavy stuff. It's
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think that people are aware of the research out there that talks about the link between building muscle and cognitive health, just cognitive strength, cognitive health, whatever you want to call it, which is just wild. I think we all kind of have an idea of like, oh yeah, we should build muscle. That'll help us kind of firm up or look the way that we want to look as we're aging. But there's this whole other component of it's good for our cognitive health, from a longevity perspective, and it's so good for balance.
yes. We
Yeah,
don't want to fall over.
we don't want to fall over. And the muscles that you tend to lose as you age, or the type of muscle that you tend to lose, I'm going to go a little nerdy now. They're type 2 muscle fibers. You've got type 1 muscle fibers. That's your kind of slow twitch endurance base. So
Yeah.
like that's what you're building when you're doing something that's like low weight, high repetition.
Yeah.
But then the fast twitch muscles are the ones that you build when you actually start to lift to failure. You actually start to, like what Shannon was saying, lift to where you just have a couple reps in the tank. Like the velocity has slowed down. Like you can't do your last rep as fast as you could do your first rep. That type of muscle is actually so important for balance because it's what catches us. Like that's part of our reflex, our reaction time. And because we're losing that, we're losing our ability to communicate with our muscles
Mm-hmm.
bit unless we're intentional about building it, which is what this program, or one of the big things this program is designed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
pretty fascinating.
It's so interesting.
And I was actually just on a call right before this with something I do where the head is a neuroscientist, and she was just describing, because I was telling her how intermittent fasting has been shown to actually increase cortisol in women. And the reason we think it works for everybody, and I'm not saying I understand that there are certain reasons to do intermittent fasting, but that it's always been tested on men. And she said that the reason this happened, well, you probably know this, Lindsey, is because all testing was done on men because of women's cycles. They couldn't get accurate. Even today, it's hard, but that's why for so long I'm not buying, that was the only reason. But she says that's why they weren't testing on women, which I just thought was fascinating because we're so hard to, men, no offense, kind of stay the same. We're like, we're all over in our cycles. I just thought that was fascinating. So we're finally, there are some good, smart men who are supporting women, but I think especially now we're getting women doctors and scientists who are like, no, I'm going to do this, and probably enough brands who know the buying power of women, who are willing to say, we'll support that research. But that's fascinating because it's like, that's what our moms didn't get to know. That's what these people in my strength training class who are like 90, they didn't get to know that because there wasn't research for it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah. It's so cool to see that we're hopefully finally moving towards really trying to understand how everyone's bodies work, not
Uh,
just the people who are easy to test
yeah.
on or
Yes,
available to test on.
Dr. Stacy Sims, who's a great person to look up if you want, she says, I can't remember if I sent you this article, but in her article, it just says, women are not small men.
We're not.
She's like, so we need different research. I thought that was so funny.
We absolutely need different research. And I want to clarify for anyone's listening because it occurred to me that it might be confusing. So Shannon has been a personal trainer for like decades at this point, and a lot of the clients who are in their 80s that she's talking about, she's working with outside of the studio.
Yeah.
There is
Sorry.
absolutely, and I know that I said like the sweet spot for a lot of kind of getting started with strength training like this is, like 40 plus. However, when we created this program, we created it for like the majority of with the majority of our members in mind. So if you were 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s,
70s, 80s even, you
we're here for
we
you.
have Simply Strength.
Yes, absolutely. And so really there's a place for you here if you are interested in improving your strength so that you can age well and like live well. Not just like live longer, but like actually enjoy
Yeah.
those years, like be present
Yes.
for your family, not be a
Yes.
burden, to be fully
Yeah.
engaged and present and active and vibrant like you are now. Like that's what we want for you. And that's the intention that's going into
Yes.
this program.
And part of that I feel so passionately about as I watch people in my own life age and also people I work with is there is something to say along with brain, encouraging the brain continuing. In other words, encouraging the brain not to decline, but also in having confidence and there's something that comes with being strong and being really capable in your body. I certainly experienced that does translate outside of the yoga studio. I mean, we see it in yoga, we see it in reformer, same with strength training. And so this really crosses a lot of kind of boundaries in terms of aging that along with that come with a sense of I can do itness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is really cool. Because
Yeah.
the world
We
needs all of us, right? We were put here for a reason, and the
We
world
need some
needs.
strong old people because they're the ones who actually have a clue,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely,
And
the wisdom.
our culture has tended to tell them you can't do that, And so not here.
Yeah, you
We're
can,
about
and
to
we're
do
here to
that.
help you.
Yeah.
Yes, we're here to be your biggest cheerleaders. One
Yeah.
of my favorite things that I hear from our members pretty consistently is like, "I've never been this strong. Like, I've
Yeah.
never felt this good. Like, I didn't realize I could feel this good at 60, or I didn't realize I could do this at 70." And it's really, really cool to see. Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Okay. So, what do you think people need to know about what the research says about how to actually build muscle? We've touched on it a couple of times,
Mhm.
but I don't think we've explicitly said, like, here's the plan.
Yeah. Well, and correct me because I know there's something you say that I think I'm going to leave out. Like I said earlier, we know that we need to be lifting heavy enough. And of course, I also want to make clear, of course, we have modifications because people do have injuries. And there are certain joints as we age that sometimes people can't use the way they used to be able to use. So we totally get that. So we're assuming if you can lift it in a way that is not harmful or painful for you, that lifting 10, 12, or 6, what is it, 6 to 10 repetitions with at minimum of one time twice a week, but ideally, I think maybe two sets of 6 to 10 reps 2 to 3 times a week, but at least 2 with each set having like being almost like, whoa, I don't know if I'm going to make this last one, and putting it down and being like, yay, that is what affects change
Yes.
in our bodies. And don't worry, you're not going to be looking like a man because just because estrogen is declining does not mean you're going to. My dogs got all excited. Can you hear them? They're like, you're not going to look like a man.
So the rep average, it's 6 to 30,
6
which
to
gives
30, that's right.
which gives like a lot of flexibility. Like you can lift a moderate weight for 20 reps, or you can lift something that feels pretty heavy for 6 to 10. So long as you're getting to kind of like Shannon was saying, that almost failure, just a couple reps left in the tank, that's when you're actually building strength. The way that I think about like the weekly schedule is once a week is maintenance. So if you're lifting once a week, you're maintaining what you've already got, and so you're preventing decline. So it's not like maintenance of like I've been strength training for like years and like I want to maintain that. It's maintenance of just what's already on your body, even if you haven't been. And then twice a week, and this is like every major muscle group in the body, twice a week is where you'll really start to like build muscle and start to make some change. 3 times a week, even better. And we know from the research that people really need recovery days in between. So rest is just as important. The recovery is just as important as doing the lifting. So you'll see in our schedule, the way that we've built our schedule, it's so that you'll get those rest breaks so that you could go take a yoga class, or so that you could go do a Pilates class that's a little bit more gentle on your muscles and have kind of that space for the other types of movement that your body might need. Yeah. Okay, so we want all of our modalities, yoga, Pilates, and strength, to be equally important. And they are all equally important. We're really excited about strength. And, Shannon and I are like the kind of people who like we go all in on something. So we know that it might seem like we're all about strength and that's the only thing that's important, but it's not true. So I want to, before we wrap this up, say how we see the three fitting together. So Shannon, like in your opinion, how does the three fit together to really be of service to our members?
Yeah. Well, for me, and this is just from my viewpoint and my personal experience of the world, for Shannon, yoga is important because of the sweetness and the present moment awareness. And it's not easy. Now there are wonderful classes like restorative that I think you could call easy, except for really, you're also being quiet, and that can be challenging. So for me, the focus on the breath and that there's nothing that brings me back inside, right, at home base than yoga. So there's always that. And then reformer, I love for strength, especially unilateral strength and stretching and balance work. I just think it's phenomenal. And I also find in reformer, I'm able to use muscles, like there's a pull on muscles or a push that's different than when I use heavier weights. It's different. And there are lots of little attachment muscles, I think that are really wonderful that are like around joints. And then, or stabilizers, maybe that's a better way to say that. And then strength training, I think we've already kind of said, lifting heavily it's a whole new task for the body mind.
Yeah,
And having all of these pillars are a wonderful complement to
yeah,
the whole
absolutely.
being.
Yeah, I think about it much the same way. A lot of times, or I've been saying like yoga teaches you how to think,
Mm,
like how to be present, how to be in your body, how to feel where your body is in space.
yeah.
It gives you that recovery that our bodies need. Such good research on it helping improve your sleep, which is also related to cognition and memory and
Yes.
just all all of those good things. Down regulating your nervous system, like
Yes.
it's so important. Pilates helps us do everything better. It's like it just helps your body move with optimal function. So it's like great posture, great alignment. When you have Pilates as kind of like the foundation for your movement, you
Mm,
can lift heavier. You're going like everything moves more efficiently.
yeah.
So that's kind of how I think about Pilates fitting into all of this. And then there's the strength piece of like, you have to build muscle.
Yeah.
You just have to build muscle. And when you're first starting out, you will likely, like, especially if you're like pretty deconditioned, it's been a minute since you've been in the studio, and no judgment. We've all had seasons of life where that has been the case.
Absolutely.
You might be building muscle when you're first getting started in yoga or when you're first getting started in Pilates. Like those 3-pound weights were heavy enough for us for a while.
Yes.
You'll hit a point where you're no longer still building muscle because you need more resistance to work against.
Especially
That,
when estrogen is in decline.
especially when estrogen is in decline.
Green estrogen.
Yes, and so that's where the strength piece really comes in to kind of round out what you're able to do at yoga and Pilates for the people in the way that you're really truly able to take care of your body for the long term, for longevity.
Well put.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Final question. Was there anything you learned that surprised you as you were putting together the program?
I mean, I think that in practice, I was surprised at that I actually was I needed to be lifting heavier than I thought. And I think a great example of this is our yoga instructor, Lindsey, who also lifts heavy, heavy weights. And she's about 10 years older than I thought she was. I forgot to tell you that. And you can see the benefits, you know?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. I think so that to me was a real shocker and an application, my own application. It was like, whoa,
Yeah, yeah, it works. It
yeah.
works. And to see and think through like, okay, this is like I've lifted weights. I too, like when kind of confronted isn't the right word for it, but like when I came across that research of like, no,
Mhm.
to build muscle, you have to lift to failure. I
Yeah.
started thinking about the weights that I was picking up differently and like it
Yeah.
all felt different. And that's when I started to really feel a change in my body. Like I am 7 months pregnant and I am lifting heavier now than I was 7 months ago, which is
Yeah.
wild. Like even pregnant, like I've been able to build muscle and build
A
strength.
mama is not to be messed with.
That's true. That's true.
Green estrogen is there too.
So many hormones. Besides the point. I know we gotta wrap up in just a second, but the thing that surprised me most, which is why the, like, 45 to 55 window has been popping up so much for me, is that learning when we were diving into this research that women age at a different rate than men. Men age at a pretty consistent, I mean,
Interesting.
rate. I'm not gonna say decline. They age at a pretty consistent rate. Women have a really steep drop off between 45 and 55, depending often on when perimenopause and menopause hit and how everyone's individual body handles that. And so that really, for me, was like, if we could get people into the studio and moving their bodies and lifting heavier, like during that period, we could change so many lives.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it was really exciting.
And one of the things that the reasons exercise is so encouraged, I just want to add this, is because it usually involves community. And that there is tremendous research that's coming out about the power of community engagement. And that is one of the reasons exercise is so effective is when it's done in community. So I want to add that because it's so cool.
Absolutely, which is why you will find us laughing and talking and
Yeah.
hanging out before and after
That's
class,
right.
sometimes during, but
Yes. Always trying.
yeah. All right, well, Shannon, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much for all of your thoughtful work on pulling this program
Thank
together. I'm
you.
so excited for people to get to dive into this and experience it. So,
Thanks, everybody.
thanks for listening. We'll see you in the studio soon.
Bye bye.